Hey people, so there's a lot of talk about vibe coding apps and there's, a lot of hype and there's also some skepticism around it, whether you can really make complex apps or not. So I kind of set out to see if that's possible. And I'm going to walk you through how I built a full-featured, full-stack, collaborative envelope budgeting app with a few tools, including Cursor and using Gemini 2.5 Pro to do it. And I want to do this to kind of give you a realistic view into what that looks like and if it's possible. And I will say it is possible. You need to have some coding knowledge, of course, and the more you have and the more you understand your project files, the better. But yeah, this is going to be a long form video and there will be timestamps, so you can jump around to the sections that are interesting to you, or you can follow along completely. I'll have the repo up so that you can start at the same point that I'm starting at and use the same prompts that I'll be using more or less. And yeah, so let's just get right into it. Like I said, the goal of this video is to be a realistic view of a complete walkthrough of vibe coding a full-featured full-stack web app. And I found a pretty decent approach to vibe coding with Cursor and Gemini 2.5 Pro, which I'd refer to more as this guide coding because we're creating really detailed implementation plans, and we're going through them very carefully and building on top of simple, vertically sliced full stack features and building on top of them over time in complexity. So we start simple and then we get more and more complex. We're going to do a collaborative envelope budgeting app because this is something that a lot of people said that they would like to have. They don't want to pay for. There's similar solutions that are like $10 a month, and you can build this yourself. Just run it locally or host it somewhere just for yourself and your roommates or your partner and collaborate on your budget. So it's a pretty cool app to have kind of in your arsenal. And yeah, it's something that's just complex enough that wouldn't be easy to do. It's complex enough that like when you're using these tools and using AI to actually make the app, it's impressive enough, but it's not too complex that it's going to get really crazy and maybe be harder to do than you might have expected. So the basic approach that we're going to use is we're going to start with a strong basis. So we're going to start with a strong template. And the template that I'm using here is Shadcn-admin. So these are UI components that are built and specifically for an admin dashboard. And this gives us a great start for building an budgeting app, right? So we have lots of numbers, calculations, the monthly budget, the different envelopes, things like that. So this is what the template looks like when you get it. And it's simply UI, so front-end stuff. There's no back-end. There's no functionality here. You can't do anything. This is just dummy data. But it looks really nice. So great. We've got all these UI components that we can use. And I put these into a Wasp project. And Wasp is a full-stack framework with batteries included. And just by defining some things in a main config file, like, for example, authentication, you get full-stack authentication managed for you by Wasp. Without having to write a ton of code. And this makes it really easy as well for the LLM to code these features for you and to create these features for you. So I've got this Shadcn-admin template in a Wasp project, and this has really helped jumpstart and guide the coding process. So yeah, I spent a few days getting this process down before trying this now on stream, and it was working surprisingly well. So starting with the template, I've also created all the rules for AI files, which previously, if you've been using Cursor, it was all packed into one Cursor rules file. But now they've switched to these .mdc files. And so I've got both here in the project. You can choose which one you want to use. They're going to deprecate the Cursor rules file, so the separate rules within .mdc files is actually the way you should go. So yeah, like I've got these files all set out that have all the rules, and they're pretty extensive. So that's also a big help, having that down. So that's already done for us. And from here, we're going to create and revise a product requirement doc, which is like a really nice description of how the app should behave, and function. And then from that, we're going to generate the plan. And we're going to use the vertical slice pattern, like I said before, which is we've got a full stack app. So we have features that go across the entire stack from the client to the database layer. And we're going to develop one of these full stack features at a time, start with low on the complexity and scale up. And we're going to constantly ask LLM to test our assumptions. We're going to ask it to, think about different solutions before choosing the best one and implementing it. And that's basically it. So, let's go ahead and get started. I have some prompts that I prepared here. So I'm just going to copy this initial prompt real quick, and I will read it off to you so that you don't have to read it all. But let's go first to set up a new chat. And like I said, I'm using Gemini 2.5 Pro. I found that this has been really great for vibe coding. Gemini seems to really get what's going on and what needs to be done, and doesn't always just agree with you, which I like. So before we do that, though, let's just jump through the project real quick, and I'll show you what we've already got. So we've got all these components, the Shadcn-admin components in the components library, along with some config and context for the app. And then we've got these features here. So they correspond, obviously, to the features in the app, which are dashboard, tasks, apps, and stuff like that. So when I see things like the tasks already, I already think like, okay, this will be great for transactions, for putting in transactions that correspond to expenses or income, right? That will be good for this budgeting app. So you see we have a really good starting point here. That's about it. Besides that, we have the main.wasp file, which is the central config file I said. Is where it's a central point where you can describe your app with things like auth, your client and server config, your routes, and your back-end operations, which are like fetches and mutations. So by defining them here and then importing the function that it refers to, you don't have to manage and configure the entire server. Wasp will do that for you. The routes and the authorization, things like that, authentication, it will take care of all this stuff for you and even give you some pre-built components and other things like that. So it's really great for speeding up the process and removing a lot of boilerplate. So that's pretty much the project in a nutshell. Let's get coding. I'm going to paste the first prompt in, and I wish it showed it here. Is there a way we can get it to show? Maybe I can right-click it. So it doesn't show it, so I'll read it from the note. So the goal here it is. I want to create a collaborative envelope budgeting app with the current template project I'm in, which uses Wasp and Shadcn UI components. It's an admin dashboard. So it'll know about Wasp already because I have a whole cursor rule about what Wasp is, the Wasp docs, how it works, stuff like that. Also project conventions, how I want things to basically be done, as well as troubleshooting, like if you run into these errors, and this is what you should probably do. So it's going to have a good understanding of how Wasp works and what the common issues might be around it. So go back to the prompt. Leveraging Wasp's full stack features such as Auth, let's build this app based on the following specifications. Users have one budget profile they use. Users can invite others to collaborate on the budget with them via their email. Transactions can be individually entered manually or bulk implemented via CSV files from their bank. Bulk import shouldn't assume a certain CSV file format, but rather map the headers of the file to a set of predefined values within the app, like date, description, value type. And this is just like, if you get a file, a CSV from one bank, it might be way different than another. So we basically want certain information. We want the date, description, the value, and whether it's an expense or an income, right? And so we're going to map whatever values from that CSV when we import it, we're going to map those to those values that we set in the app. New features should be styled and created using the demo features in the source features directory as examples. And we want to use this modified vertical slice implementation approach that's suitable for LLM-assisted coding. I do this a lot. I often ask it like, hey, is this great for LLM-assisted coding? I don't know if it's helpful or not, but it seems to work for me. With this in mind, I want you to first evaluate the project template, think about few possible PRD approaches before landing on the best one. So provide reasoning why this would be the best approach. Remember, we're using Wasp, the full stack framework with batteries included, that can do some of the heavy lifting for us, and we don't need to create an enterprise level app. It will be for personal use. We want to use a vertical slice implementation approach so we can start with the basic implementations of features first and add on complexity from there. And one thing I forgot to mention before we start, we want to actually start the app, and because this is a full stack app with a Postgres database running locally, we have to install Wasp, which you can get the install script from wasp.sh, and I'll show it real quick. If we go to getting started, you'll see there's a install script there. You're going to paste that into your terminal and run it. You'll get Wasp installed, and then you'll want to have Docker. I have Docker Desktop installed and running, and then with that I can run wasp db start, and this starts a Postgres database that's connected to our app right away. And we leave that running, and we open a new terminal window, and we're going to run wasp db migrate dev just to initialize the database, but I've already done that, so I'm going to run wasp start. Whoops, wasp start. It says use NV node version 20, so NVM use 20. If you run into that, make sure you have NVM installed, and you can switch between node versions. So we're using node version 20 now, and I can run wasp start. Okay, now it's building the SDK, compiling the app. And then from there, it does look like I need to migrate the database, so I was wrong. So let's do wasp db migrate dev. Okay, and we've got the app running. And let's tell it, I've copy and pasted the prompt. It's put it up there, so I'll just say, please implement the PRD as described. And we're off. And you'll see it does a lot of thinking in the background, and it's going to give a lot of stuff that I can't read fast enough, but I'm just going to go ahead and accept a lot of the changes that it makes. And we'll just deal with problems as they arise. Hopefully stuff works. We'll check it out as we go. You can see it's creating a plan or a PRD that talks about, let's see. So it has a proposed implementation plan, but it didn't write it to the disk. And what I want to do here first is create a AI folder, and I'm just going to put the plan.md and empty prd.md in there. And I'm going to say, now it's given me these phases. It's a proposed implementation plan. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, and it asks, shall we proceed with Phase 1? Sure, let's proceed with Phase 1. Write the PRD to the prd.md file. And I got that just by writing @ and then searching prd.md, and let's see what it does for us. I'm going to switch to agent mode so that it makes changes for us. That's probably why it didn't do it before. It might have been in ask mode still. Cool, so now we see it applying changes. Cool, and they're over here. So core features, implementation guidelines. Let's see what it's doing now. Okay, so on quick overview, it's not really that big. It gives us basically what we said. before, but it breaks it down, its core features, into a few different parts and a few implementation guidelines. I like that, but now I'll say, okay, now you've created, oh, I think I actually have a prompt for this. So let's go back. And I have a plan prompt. So I'm going to give that. And it says, from this PRD, create an actionable step-by-step plan that we can use as a guide for LLM-assisted coding. Before you create the plan, think about a few different plan styles that would be suitable for this project before selecting the best one. Give your reasoning for why you think this we should use this plan style. So let's paste that in. Now let's see what it does. I forgot to mention that it should write it in plan.md. Maybe it figures that out by itself. Planning style for this project, vertical slice indentation. I recommend a milestone-based combined with user stories. All right, so it wants to create user stories that we can go from. It's creating 4 phases. The plan provides a structured roadmap. Say, write this plan to plan.md. And we want that so that we can, implement one thing at a time. We can just go subtask by subtask and break everything up into chunks for the LLM. Okay. Great. So we've got it all there. The phase 3, phase 4, CSV import is phase 4. Let's see what we got there. Budget category, budget profile entity. I'm just going to ask it a question, accept that and ask it a question real quick. Say, in the plan, do we have instructions for implementing envelopes? Remember, this is an envelope budgeting app. And if it doesn't, we'll ask it to update it accordingly, because I'm not going to read all that. We're vibe coding. It says, yeah, the implementation does include for envelopes concept below primarily refers to them as budget categories. And then I'm going to say, can you refactor the plan to include specific mention of envelopes for our envelope budgeting app? Also refactor it to use these little things, which are to do check boxes, right? So, oh, I forgot to put it. I'm going to stop. I forgot to put it in agent mode. Let's just go to agent mode so that I can make changes on its own. All right, great. Now you see there, it's refactoring everything to use checkboxes, so we can check those off as we go, which is great. It's a lot cleaner that way. Let's see, did it mention envelopes? Envelopes, yeah. Budget envelope, I think, created. Okay, it's still putting envelopes in parentheses, so I'm going to say explicitly change the category model to be named envelope and update the entire plan accordingly. Oops. Agent. Yes, I want to fully commit to the envelope terminology. Okay, so it says now uses envelopes. Let's see if that's correct. If I go up here, yeah. Budget profile entity, budget envelope entity. Great. So we're going to have envelope models in the database. We're going to apply that to plan MD. We're going to accept changes, accept all. Perfect. All right. And from there, I think we can start implementing, right? So let's just look at it real quick. Phase 1. We've got the goal is to establish user authentication, create the basic budget structure, and allow users to manage budget envelopes. So step 1. Oh, why didn't we get the nice to-do boxes there? That's annoying. I thought we had that. There you go. This is what vibe coding is all about. Complaining to the LLM. Refactor. Plan.md to use checkboxes, please. Or you go to jail. Okay. Accept it all, and let's go. So, number 1, auth setup. Configure and verify Wasp built-in auth, username and password. Ensure users can sign up, log in, and log out. Define necessary fields, email, hash password, etc. implicitly via Wasp auth config or explicitly if needed. Okay, I know that Wasp doesn't need hash password and all that stuff, so I've done that in here. It says agent requested, which means if the agent is doing anything related to auth, it'll look up these rules. So let's see if it can do that correctly. So I'll say, great, let's implement step 1.1 from the plan. Let's reference the 3 database operations. Reference auth rules for your process implementing. Whatever, just leave it like that. I don't know what I mean, I think. Great, so it's looking at that, it's referencing rules. And it's figuring out that it's going to use a different method from Wasp. Instead of username and password, it will use the email method. Let's see if we can get it right. It's pretty tricky, to be honest. I was impressed with what it did last time. Okay, so it's changing the method to email, adding an email sender. It's implementing some different auth pages. Cool. Which it's probably defining here, right? So it's implementing the auth pages and routes in the file. So I'm just going to accept. And let's see. We got some errors down there for a second, but it might... okay, 1 error found. Let me just copy and paste these to the chat. Say, fix these errors, please, or you go to jail. Okay, so it's looking for auth wrapper. Might not... I don't think there is any auth wrapper. So it's going to fix email verification. It says, assuming an auth wrapper exists. Okay, so I can see that it actually had a better implementation from the beginning. So I'm actually just going to stop this. And this is because I know that Wasp gives us auth stuff out of the box. And so, yeah, this email verification form, like, it was right. It was getting that. And I think the issue here is that I have this authentication thing set on agent requested. I'm just going to set it to always. I think that'll be a better approach. As well as the advanced troubleshooting, so that they're always passed into context. So let's just reject all. And let's go back up to where we started, where it says, where was it? Here. So fix these errors, please. And let's just try it again. See if it gets it this time. And this is an instance where I know that Wasp gives these Auth UI forms right away. So it looks like, let's see what it exports. from Auth UI, verify email form. So it's just getting the name wrong. There it goes. It got it right. And it's trying to rely on this auth wrapper, which doesn't exist. So I don't know why it's hung up on that. And we're just going to accept it and not use the auth wrapper. In fact, this one has a decent wrapper, so why don't we just use that one? I think that would make more sense. Yeah, it's getting it now. There it goes. So I think just setting that. So that's a good thing to look out for. These rules, when you use MDC files, you can see agent requested. So like if the agent's looking for it, you can set it to always, or you can set it to manual. And last time I used the cursor rules file. This time I'm using the MDC files. So I'm just going to leave most of them on always, so they're always being passed into the chat context. And let's accept. Let's go see if we have any more errors in our terminal here. I'm hoping this will work. Looks like it looks good. Yep, we got the right things being exported. We got login and sign up coming from Wasp Auth. So yeah, that looks like a good start. It says recompilation successful. Let's try it. If we go to, right now, nothing's being logged in, nothing's being authorized. So if we go to login, cool. If we go to sign up, the sign up, or is it sign up? Oh, shit. Sign up. Okay, let's try and sign up an account. So we need an email. So we're just using, it's just development. So we can use fake email, sign up. Okay, we get a network error. Where's the network error happening? Let me try again. Create a new account, email.com, fake password. Okay, I don't see anything here, so let's see what we see in the console. And we can, what's this? Get out of here. One password. React router, create new account, vinny@email.com. Password 123. Connection refused. Why is connection refused? Is it not working? Is the thing? Oh, we have some. Is it not? Let me try and run the. I think the database wasn't running. Let's see if we do it now. Ready to accept. And if we do start. Okay, so I canceled the Postgres database running locally, and I restarted it. And let's see now if we can get things to work. @email.com. Password 123. Yay! So we're using a dummy email sender instead of a real provider. So like SendGrid or something like that, or an SMTP host. So it's going to log the verification email to the console. So I'm going to click it. Email verified. You can now log in. Let's see if that's true. Localhost. Log in. vinny@email.com. Cool. And it worked. And we can check that worked by looking at the console for one, or we can go to our main.wasp file, and I don't need the what do you call it? The LLM to put in one line, but all we have to do is put in one line to make this route, this page, authorized. So you have to be authenticated to log in. So auth required is true. We can do the same for any other page. Let's just do it for that. So we are logged in. Cool. So I will ask it, can you please mark that step as complete? That's something I could probably also do myself, but vibe code. We're vibe coding. Yeah, that's kind of stupid. Let's stop that. Okay, so great. We got auth set up pretty easily. Ready to move on to step 1, 2? Yes. Let's move on to step 1.2, which is budget profile entities or database models. Wasp refers to them as entities because they can be used, these database models can be used throughout the entire app. So let's see now. Thinking. We're going to create a budget entity in the schema.prisma file. Link to the user. Establish logic, perhaps in a user creation hook or first login action to ensure each user is associated with a budget. Cool. Okay, so it's self-corrected and it's applying changes to the budget. I'm sorry, to the schema.prisma file, adding budgets, and it's adding relations to be defined in later steps. I like that. That's really cool. That's great. It knows what it's going to do in advance because we created the PRD and this plan. So that's really nice. Okay, now we need to run wasp db migrate dev. I hope it works in here. I don't know why I can't. Let me do pop out to terminal. Let me do nvm, or let me do it here. I don't know why I keep having to switch to that, but let's do wasp db migrate dev after switching to node 20. Okay, and it says, let me know when you've updated Node.js and successfully run the migration. So smart bot knows to, and we're going to call this budget entity. And then wasp start, and I say, okay, I migrated that database, buddy. Okie dokie. So now it's doing stuff. There's our app. It looks like we crashed. Let's restart. Wasp start. This buddy just keeps on coding. Cool. It's adding an auth hook on user sign up. Did you mean on after sign up hook? So let's try that. So we got an error here. It says has no exported member called on user sign up hook. Server hooks. Okay. So let's just let's pass it to the chat and say let's say accept all. Pass that bad boy to the chat. Say fix. So it looks like it's referencing the wrong type definition. It should match this one. So it should be on after sign up or something like that. I mean, the error pretty much gives you the answer there, right? On after sign up. I think it's expecting different arguments. Expected 2, but it got 1. So it's consulting the Wasp documentation on after signup hook, which is pretty cool. I'm going to click auto search for next time, but it's going to look at the docs and try and figure out what's going on here. So that's really sweet. Pretty amazing, to be honest. Because that would be the point where I would have to go do that myself. So it said, got it. The search results confirm the signature of on after signup. And wow, look at that. Fixed it for us. Pretty nice. I'm going to say accept. Let's go back and run wasp start to start the app. Oh, what do we have? We have an issue here in the file. Where did hooks go? Hooks, type error again. Let's just pass to the chat and say fix. Looks like we have an issue with the field hooks. It'll probably do some searching. It's probably on after sign up. but as it's suggesting, but let's see what it does. Yeah, on after sign up. So cool. There's a good instance of where it's going to assume some of the things, some of the definitions on its own, without consulting the docs, and then it runs into an error, and then it consults the docs, and it realizes, okay, you don't have to define it via a hook object. So with that, we should be able to run again. And the reason it's doing that, I saw when it was creating, is that it's going to create a on after sign up hook that will look if a budget profile has been created or not yet for the user. So if it's the first time they're logging in, there won't be, and it'll probably redirect them to that budget profile page to create one. So cool. Let's see. Okay, where were we at in the plan? What should be done next? Okay, we finished the implementation. The next step, so they finished the implementation for that. So let's just go to our plan and we will check that off. And it says next is budget envelope entity. Are we ready to create the budget envelope entity in the schema Prisma file? Yeah, let's do it. Cool, so after we create these database models, you'll see it's going to want to create the operations, which are the backend functions, our server-side functions for things like creating an envelope, getting envelopes, stuff like that. I wonder if there's any, if it's user creating first login, if it'll just create a budget on it. We'll see. Probably create one budget. So there will be a budget. The way I imagined it is like you have one budget, that's like called, you know, my household budget or whatever. And then you have envelopes within that, right? So your food envelope, your fun envelope, your blah, 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 whatever you allocate money to. Let's see if I can run the command in there. Man, that's really annoying. But there's probably a way to fix it, but I'm just going to roll with it here and run wasp db migrate dev from in here. And it even tells me what name to name the database migration, add envelope model. I will do that. Thank you. Okay, and then I'll say, okay, migration is donezo. And Wasp start again. If anybody knows how to fix that so that the cursor embedded terminal also uses Node version 20, that would be great. Leave it in the comments. Okay, cool. So migration is done. So it's saying, yeah, they confirmed the data migration. Okay, so this is where we move on to the fun stuff. That's just a couple database migrations, no big deal. So now we've got the budget envelope database model. But now it wants to implement this task with many other subtasks, which are the create operations. So in the backend functions, like things like hitting the server to create an envelope, right? It's defining an async function, blah, 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 update Wasp. So it's already started doing that. And you'll see there's an operations folder. So let's go to, it's created a budget folder, operations. So here are our backend functions, and we're getting those, our server-side functions without having to actually configure the entire server. Wasp is doing that for us. We just have to define those operations in the main.wasp file, and then it's creating the function here that is being defined. So we've got things like create envelope, get envelopes, etc. And yeah, an action and a query, right? Create envelope and get all your envelopes. So it's done that. Great. The create envelope and get envelopes queries are now defined. This completes step 1.4. I don't know if it completes all of it, does it? Let's accept all and let's go to the plan and see. Plan. Right, we have create envelope, get envelopes, but we didn't do update and delete. So I'm going to say it seems like we still need to implement the remaining operations from 1.4. Please do so. Gotta be nice to your LLM, you know? You don't want the AIs to get mad at you and get payback when the singularity comes. Or so I've been told. The funny thing is, on stream or on video, like a lot of times when it's doing LLM's generating stuff, I'll go and do something else. Go and do some other work, come back, see where it's at, test things out, keep going. I mean, that's a pretty amazing part, is that we can offload a lot of stuff. I think it'll be only a matter of time before the agents get good enough that you don't have to hold their hand so long. So let's see. Okay. So it says it's done those things. I'm going to accept all and just go take a look at the operations folder. We are getting errors as any type because maybe it hasn't been defined yet, or we have errors in our thing. What's going on? Something unexpected field auth. Oh, okay. So I know what the issue is. It says auth on the budget page. It should be auth required, right? We could pass that in. Here's the error. Where is it? This is auth. Auth required. Where the hell is it? Budget page. Yeah, there's our culprit. I'm surprised we're not getting a... Well, let's restart. I tried to restart the Wasp language server. Well, we can pass that in there. I know what the issue is, that we need to change it to required. Auth required is true, but just for the sake of demonstration purposes, let's add it to the chat and say fix. And it's going to find the culprit and it's kind of helpful to know your project and know your apps, because sometimes you can fix stuff faster than the LLMs can. We humans aren't so dumb after all. Okay, so now we should be able to restart, and it's restarted on its own. Nice. Okay, where were we? I believe we were implementing the other, get envelopes, update envelope, and delete envelope actions on the server. So great. These are, you can see they are validating if a user is logged in or not on the server, which is great. And I think we can move to step 1.5, which is the budget UI. This is a basic budget UI. I think we've resolved those. Oh, there's an in budget page. What do we got? Okay, the components in budget page. Did it already start? Oh, it already started implementing those. Okay, so did it do that already? We have, no, we don't have. We have implementer errors here. Import Shadcn components. Let's say, you know what? I think this is also, I don't like that new feature. I actually kind of preferred having the cursor rules file all in one file and everything. So let's just try that. I'm going to always pass all these rules into context every time, because I see a front-end styling error. So people, select your rule types in the MDC to be always, at least for this project, it seems to be the better option. So I'm just going to go here and I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to say fix in chat. It looks like we've already done handle create envelope. Do we have handle update envelope? Probably not. Let me just see update. No. So those are the next ones we can handle in the plan. So we're going to move on to 1.5 next. 1.4 is done. And then we'll be able to see some interesting stuff in our actual app. For now, a lot of it's just been database models and backend functions. Yeah, so it figured out that not to reference with aliases, but relative paths. That's just how I like to do it in the project file. I know Shadcn likes doing it with the aliases, but I'm a weirdo. Okay. So let's accept, and I'm going to say let's move on to plan step 1.5. Okay, so it's giving me two options. We can implement the edit delete UI now, or we can move to phase 2. So he says we've actually already completed the main steps of 1.5, but I like the idea of adding the edit and delete. So let's go with option 1. So we have the edit and delete functionality of the envelopes, and I want the edit and delete the edit button to open a modal. I think that'll just be nicer. So I'm just going to say, make sure to open a modal dialog when the user clicks on edit and delete. Reference how modals are built in the app under the, I can refer it to the components directory. Okay, so let's tell it to do that. Let's see what we get. Go check out the budget page. And the cool thing about Wasp is the budget page, you have to be authenticated to go there, and it's available at budget. So if our app isn't throwing errors, then we can see it at /budget. And we'll also tell it to add it to the sidebar there. Okay, so there's add a new envelope. Not sure how much I like that, but the whole point of this vertical slice thing is to start simple and get the basic implementation down first, and then improve upon it over time. So we'll just stick with that. Let's go check out what it's doing. Oh, wow, okay. It has a plan for doing all that. Because I asked it to look at the confirmed dialog stuff, which are the modals, and it's just going ahead and going to town. Look at that. Cool. Is it using the right stuff? How does it look? Card, title, dialog. Looks great. So let's accept. All right, it's recompiling there. It says phase 1 is now fully complete. Besides the little bit of the few hiccups that we had in the beginning there, it went pretty smooth. So we're going to go to add budget. Let's just refresh. Let's say, yeah, I think groceries is a good idea. So groceries, say add envelope. Oh, and we get an issue. What's going on here? No budget found. Okay. So no budget has been created. So that should be interesting. So we need a budget first. I know that. Your budget has to be, your envelopes have to be connected to a budget, perhaps. Or maybe that's a bad implementation. Let's ask AI. Let's ask Gemini. Let's say, okay, I'm getting an error on the server that I've pasted into this chat. I initially asked you to create a budget from which there are envelopes, or within which for each user, so that other users can collaborate on that one budget together. Now I'm getting this no budget found error. Why is that? And is this a good way to implement this functionality? Okay, that was a lot, but thanks to everyone who's sticking with me here. Yeah, this is quite long. We're almost at an hour, it looks like, about an hour. Okay. When we create the envelope, the action runs, it's looking for find budget, to find a budget first. The existing user was logged in before we implemented the on after sign up hook. Okay, that makes sense. So it is trying to create a budget, but we just didn't do it. So it's saying test the current flow by signing up a new user. Consider the alternative approach, which is don't automatically create a budget on sign up and add functionality for user to explicitly create a new budget. I don't know. Let's just try doing the new user. Where are we? Over here. How can we log out? There is no log out thing, and we don't have it set up in the thing first. So let's have it create. Or we can. Yeah, we want some log out functionality somewhere. So let's go back to agent mode and say, okay, I want to create a new user, but I realized there is no logout functionality implemented yet. Can you put one in the nav user drop down, or yeah, something like that. So you notice I kind of just I talk to it like I'm like a dummy. But the LLMs are nice and patient, and they're smart enough to know what I want. So it's going to use the logout function from Wasp client Auth, and it's going to put it in the profile dropdown menu item logout. So I don't know which one's the profile dropdown, but it did those edits. So let's say accept, and let's go over here and go back to home. Is that profile? That's logout. Yeah, cool. We logged out. Let's go to sign up. Man, that one's getting me. It's sign-up. And let's create dude@email.com. And let's look in our dummy email provider for the verification link. And we get it. Awesome. And we want to go to localhost 3000/login. And what was it? Dude@email.com. Awesome. Okay, let's see if we can create, is it budget that the thing was? A new envelope called groceries. Yay! Edit. Allocated amount. Let's say we want $500 a month for groceries. Okay, cool. I would like to see if it's like spent and stuff like that. So let's just ask the LLM, right? We've allocated $500, but I'm going to wait. Maybe during the transaction implementation phase, then we will update the budget, the envelopes. So I'm gonna tell it that. I'm gonna say, I just noticed that the envelope doesn't show spent and remaining amounts, but I realize we haven't implemented transactions yet. Can you make sure that the plan will address this and other things like this when we get to that point? And I'm going to reference the plan here at plan.md. And let's see what our nice friend says. You've made a great observation. You're absolutely right. The current budget page only shows the allocated amount from the envelope. So, It says phase 2 manual. To explicitly address this issue, I propose we add a new step. Okay, great. Just to make the point, this is one of my things that I say, like, create and revise your PRD and plan. Like, constantly test assumptions, constantly ask, this is what you should be doing. Otherwise, you're going to run into issues later on. So if you think something might not be right, or is a little bit off or missing, you ask the LLM, get it to update your plan or whatever code at the moment. You don't have to follow the plan strictly. You know, you can say, okay, like the logout functionality, for example, like let's add it right now. You know, it's vibe coding. You should be vibing. So yes, add that to the plan. To be honest, this is pretty much how a implementation workflow would kind of look like if you were doing it on your own. You might realize it and you would just do it manually. But now we're just getting, you know, AI to take care of a lot of the grunt work for us. So let's see, it says plan. Did it make the changes? Yeah, cool. So we've got that there. While we're at it, I'm going to say, with this recent addition to the plan in mind, can you go through our plan and look for similar inconsistencies? Think about our current implementation and yeah, decide after ruminating about it, buddy. Let's see what it gets. So I'm just telling it, look for similar stuff that we might not have thought about. Understand the goal, review the recent change, scan phase 1. So this is cool. This is something I did a lot in the previous time. Something that seems to work pretty well because, you know, nobody's perfect. Not even the LLM. It's saying consistency check. The plan appears consistent and addresses one minor action. We completed the work for 1.5, so we could update the boxes. Shall I update the boxes? I think we got that. So it's saying, yeah. But we also allow editing if these are, yeah, so a stretch goal. Allow editing and deleting envelopes. We got that now, right? Can I delete it? Oh, beautiful. Funny money. Let's see, add an envelope for funny money. Let's make it, we don't want to spend too much funny money. Rent. Cool. I like this. This makes me feel like, you know, responsible. Okay. With that, it looks like we can proceed to phase 2. Awesome. All right, we're ready to move on to phase 2. Just one thing I did real quick before was I asked Cursor or Gemini, how can I make Node version 20 the default for all my terminal sessions? And so it gave me the nvm alias default 20 command, which I put in. So now if I open a new terminal window and I do Node version, I see Node version 20. So that fixes the issue where before we were trying to run a command, it would give us the Node version error. So yeah, hopefully Cursor agent can run commands in these little embedded terminal windows that it has now. So we've got to restart our database. Oh, well, didn't use 20 here. We've got to restart our database, and we've got to start our app. And then we see on our plan, phase 2, 2.1 is, well, phase 2 is all about the manual transaction entry and assignment to envelopes. So we're going to start with the manual, and then we can go to more like bulk transaction imports and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and say, let's implement phase 2.1, which is just adding the transaction entity to our schema.prisma file so that we can start implementing create, read, update, delete operations or CRUD operations for transactions like create transaction, get all transactions, update, and delete transaction. So cool. It's going, doing its thing. Let's just go take a peek in schema.prisma and see what's going on. Okay. So remember before it was commented out the transactions relation there. So now we're slowly working our way through. We've got a transaction enum. So we'll see that here when we see the transaction type is the transaction type enum. Awesome. Okay, let's see if it works now. Wasp db migrate dev. Awesome. Remember before we were getting that node error. So if you run into that, just make sure to use nvm alias. What do we want to name our transaction? This is, yeah, we'll say add transaction model. Yeah, just remember to use nvm alias 20. I believe it was. Cool. So database migration successful. We've defined the transaction entity. This completes step 2.1. So let's go back to our plan. Looks good. We're going to accept. I'll say let's do 2.2 now. And we should see in the source features transactions operations.ts file. So where are transactions? Maybe it hasn't created that yet. So it will probably create a new folder here under features, hopefully. And first it is defining the operations in the main.wasp file. Perfect. And then we should see that it creates a transactions folder. There we go, with the operations. So these are our backend server-side functions for creating. And it looks like create and get transactions. It's deferring the update and delete, but I say let's go ahead and do it. Why not? Okay, let's just say accept all. And I'll say let's implement the update and delete functionality or operations as well. Okay, so we've got create transaction, we've got get transaction, and hopefully by this we should have update and delete. We can see it being added to the main.wasp file right there. Now they will add implementations. So we should be seeing that get added to our operations folder. Great. The nice thing about Wasp is that by defining these operations in the main.wasp file, Wasp will create the types for these server-side functions. So we see create, get, update, and delete transaction. And then we can define those, we can use those types there, add the input and output types as well. And then when we use those on the front end, those operations on the front end, they are fully end-to-end type safe. So that's really nice. And that also helps guide the LLM. Okay, so it looks like it's done. Let's just say okay. So now we've implemented all of those. And the next is the transaction form UI. So I'm just going to say, okay, let's go ahead and do 2.3, but also make sure to implement the edit and delete functionality on the UI via modals. Let's see how well it can deal with that request. Okay. So it says it's going to create a component in the transaction form.tsx file that it should create over here soon in transactions with a date picker, input, and select type. It will trigger create transaction on submit. So the only thing missing from the plan is the update and delete stuff. Let's see if it gets that right. Okay, it created a transaction modal. Let's see if it can deal with these import errors. Let's see. It doesn't seem to be recognizing the import errors. I'll wait a second and I'll just say, well, we've got some here. Let's just accept all and let's fix in chat. So it's assuming Shadcn utils path. I changed those because I put them in my own. I set up the template a bit differently. But the nice thing is once I just pass the error to chat, say fix in chat, it's able to do that. So that's great. So it's looking in lib utils, but I changed it to cn because that was all that was in there. So hopefully it'll realize that, or if not, we can change it ourselves. Okay, so accept all, and I think I named that cn. Yeah, so that's looking good. And let's see, go to the terminal and allow the app to recompile, and everything looks good. So let's see what happens here. We've got that. It's probably at transactions or transaction. Let's try it out. Now, let's check the main.wasp file. What route do we have now? Where is transaction? Do we have a transaction route? It looks like it did not create a transaction route. Search page, budget page. Okay, so I'll just tell it I can't seem to find the URL for the transaction route. How can I access it, or do we still need to define that? Okay, so looks like it's added the transaction page here within the transaction regions. So let's go ahead and say accept. And it created a route at transactions path. So got an error. Internal error failed to resolve. Let's pass that to the chat. So transactions page is probably, how's it being exported? Export function transaction form. Hey, what's that? Yeah. Okay. So it's saying transactions list blah blah will go here, and I can just say please import the components. We've got transaction form and transaction modal. Transaction form and into the transactions page. I don't know if it needs the transaction modal, but we'll just tell it if necessary. So please import the components, transaction form, and transaction modal into the transactions page. Okay, so it's added them, but it doesn't, it says it will be implemented next. So let's go to the plan. Let's see, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Transaction list UI. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I was assuming, I got a little ahead of myself there. Let's tell it to implement 2.4 now. So I wanted it to do something that it had planned for 2.4, and I did not do that. correctly. So sorry, the LLM was following the plan correctly, but I was not. Let's see how it deals with that. So that was pretty cool, actually, to see where I'm trying to force the LLM to go past the plan. It knows we're still on, what do you call it? On section 2.3, and I was kind of jumping the gun there. And it implemented part of the transaction page, but left it blank because it was waiting for the command to continue with 2.4. So let's see what it's doing there. It looks to me like it kind of so we had transaction form. It looks to me like it's kind of doing it again in the page. So it's not using the transaction form. Okay, let's just say accept, see what we get. Let me see if I'm correct in that it's not using the transaction form. Where is the transaction form being used? In the transaction modal. Oh, okay, maybe it is. Okay, pretty sweet. So we've got something nice here already. Let's do add transaction. Awesome, look at that. We've got date picker from the components we have in our the Shadcn-admin. Let's give it a description. Let's say we bought pizza. It was $28. So an expense. Oh, I don't have an envelope for that, so let's call it. We went to the bar, and that's funny money. Cool, and we've got a nice expense badge. It's in red. Awesome, we can edit it. Oh no, it was $32. Amazing. Okay, so that seems to work well. Let's see if we can delete one. Select an envelope. Okay, we want to delete that one. Absolutely sure? Sure. Awesome. So all that stuff's working. And I should have trusted the process there because the LLM knew exactly what it was doing, was following the plan, and it did it really well. So let's move on to section 2.5. It says this completes 2.4 for providing the UI, for listing, adding, editing, and deleting. Next step is 2.5. Involves calculating and displaying envelope summaries on the budget page. So, okay, let's do it. So one thing I am noticing is that we're not updating the sidebar in here and stuff yet, but that will probably be something later. Let's check our plan. So after this, it's collaboration on budgets and envelopes, and then CSV import and mapping to envelopes. So let's just follow the plan, and we can update all the sidebar and stuff later. All right, so cool. We're adding the entity, transaction entity to the main.wasp get envelopes query. So what that means is that Wasp takes care of automatic caching and cache invalidation on the client. And in order for the get envelopes function to have access to those entities, you just have to let it know that you want it to be able to act on those entities. And through that, you get lots of cool stuff out of the box. So that was in get envelopes. So we're in the budget operations. Let's see where, yeah. So it has updated get all envelopes to include a summary. It says envelopes with summary. So a calculated summary of what's going on. So the envelope info, what's spent, and what's remaining. So that's pretty cool. Let's accept all, and let's go see the budgets page now. Okay, we get an error. Maybe it's not done. Okay, it hasn't done. It's not done compiling, recompiling. Now it's finished. Still get an error. So let's look in the browser console. Response. So no. Oh, no budgets. Maybe it's budget. That was my fault. Okay, so I don't see anything on the UI yet. Let's go to the plan. Oh, where'd my chat go? That was this one, right? Okay. So it says, I've added the transaction entities for get, envelopes, and main wallet. This should resolve. Now that the query returns the calculated amount, the next step is to update the UI. Yes. So that's what we're missing. Yes, update. Cool. So we should see some stuff happening on the budget page. So it will display the spent and remaining amounts and a simple progress bar for visual for the spent amount relative to the allocated amount. I like that. There's probably stuff we could save for the dashboard, but let's do it now. We can always move it later. Okay. So I was looking for a progress component. Do we have a loading component or something like that? UI instead of progress? Yeah, it probably doesn't have a progress. It has a skeleton. It doesn't have a progress loader. So let's try resume. It said it had a problem connecting. Stay with me. Okay, so did it create a progress component or did it make its own progress component? Are properly commented out in budget page. Let's see that. Where's progress? Let's look for it. Okay, so it says progress component is added. This completes step 2.5 minus the visual project bar, which can be added later. Why don't we just do that now? So let's go ahead and implement the progress bar, that component that is commented out in the budget page, right? In at budget page. Before we move on to phase 3. Oh, so it's saying it assumes you already added or will add the progress component to your Shadcn command. Also, there is one from Shadcn UI. Yeah, so it's getting angry because it's not there. I'm surprised it didn't say. Let's accept. So it kept it commented out. Let's go ahead and add it. So I know this is going to be a little bit tricky because of the way that I set up the template with the components and the path aliases and stuff. But let's just go for it and we'll work out the errors and we'll deal with it on the fly. So npx Shadcn latest add progress. Please use okay, so npm Shadcn latest add progress. Go for it. Invalid configuration. Yeah. So let me go back to Shadcn-admin and go to the Shadcn-admin GitHub. And let's look at their original components JSON. And it's got aliases. Is it the aliases that's missing? Because I removed that. Let's see. What do we got that's different? Yeah, I think so. Let's see. If I add that and I try it again, what will it do? There it goes. Guess I shouldn't have deleted that. I mean, we're not using the aliases, we're using relative paths, but I believe we just got it added in there. Where's the progress? Funny, it added it up there. So let's try that again. I'm just going to mess around. I'm going to delete that whole thing. And I'm going to say it gave us a suggestion that it's source, right? So I don't think UI is under, I'm sorry, I don't think hooks are there. Lib, I think I deleted utils and I put the stuff in lib. So maybe just leave that there for now and let it do its thing. Let's add progress. Where does it add it? Components, UI. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that wasn't too hard. Sorry about that. It's looking for, of course, for the wrong thing. I want it under CN. Okay, so that's probably something I wouldn't do next time. I wouldn't mess around with the aliases and stuff, just to make it easier to work with Shadcn. I didn't think about that. I thought we had all the components we needed, but it's not a hard change, right? It's like that was looking for the CN function in utils. I know it's in CN because I changed it. You probably wouldn't have to have, if you were doing your own project, you wouldn't have that issue. But yeah, anyway, let's go then and say, okay, I imported the progress component now. Let's uncomment it out and use it. And that should be in the budget page. So spent percentage, did we? Aha, okay, so it's already got a calculate spent percentage function right there. I wonder if that, it's not too expensive of a calculation. Could be memoized maybe. I don't know that much about that. I mean, how often were we doing that call? It's probably fine the way it is. That's something we could ask Gemini about. Let's wait and see. Actually, I will ask. I'll ask about this spent percentage calculation once we're done. Okay, so we'll accept it. And I'm just going to go ahead and say, add to chat and say, is this function worth memoizing to increase performance in our app? I'm not sure this is that expensive of an operation on the client. Think about the possible issues, or think about this scenario and present a rationale of your decision. All right, interesting. That looks like a very simple calculation. My guess is it's going to probably say that's not worth memoizing, but who knows? Yeah, you're right to consider performance, but in this specific case, spent percentage calculation using use memo is likely not worth the added complexity. This calculation is cheap. Memoization has overhead. Focus on higher impact memorizations. And it's saying if this page did have performance issue, i.e. with thousands of envelopes, the bottleneck would be DOM rendering, creating, updating many card components. List virtualization or memoizing the card component itself would be far more impactful. That's really cool. I didn't know that. So it's generally best practice to avoid optimizing until you measure a real performance problem. Cool, so that's great to know. So let's see if that works. Let's go to our thing, and amazing. We've got a cool little bar there. That's awesome. So let's go to transactions. And let's add, we have one under funny money. So let's just add a bunch under funny money. let's say we went to the theme park and we spent like $300. And then let's go back to budgets. Oh, so we went past our budget because budget money was only $100. So let's make it 400. Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that. It looks clean, nice. The only thing I'm noticing is that we're missing some of these like nice nav bars and stuff. And I mean, that's not like something we could probably optimize later, but I kind of want to go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to tell it to do that, and also to add to the sidebar the budgets and transactions page. Great. Something I noticed that I'd like to implement before continuing is that the budget, is it budgets? Budget? And is it transactions? Okay, the budget and transactions roots are missing two things. One, the pages themselves do not have the header / nav bar found on the tasks. And what's it called? Dashboard pages, for example. And two, these roots are not accessible in the sidebar. Can you make these changes, please? Okay, so hopefully it looks at these pages here, like tasks, and it adds these nice sidebar and stuff like that to our budgets and transactions, and also adds them here. Okay, it seemed to have stalled, so I'll say, okay, go ahead. So it's found the app sidebar. So now it's going to add the links to the sidebar, and along with some nice icons. Okay, so let's accept and go look. Okay, we've got budget and transactions. Okay, it didn't do the add the nav bar. It says these changes should blah, 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 and ensure they appear within the application standard. Okay, to see the sidebar update. Okay, so it assumed that we would get the header nav bar, but we didn't. So I'm going to go back and say that worked great for the sidebar, but these routes still don't have the header / nav bar that I'm seeing on the tasks and users pages. Can you investigate, e.g. tasks page and figure out which components are being used for the header / nav bar, and import them into the budget, and let's just add those, the budget page and what was it, transactions page, right? Cool, so it's investigating the task page like we asked. And it imports a header and a main component. It imports search, theme, switch, profile, up, drop down, all this stuff. Awesome. So that's budget page. So we should see the updates on budget page soon. Let's go check it out. Nice, there we go. Perfect. Transactions, nice. So we should see, there it goes, yeah. Cool. I think there's still some little headers there for tasks, some inconsistencies in the UI there, but we can work that out later. I mean, it looks pretty good for now. We have this as an example, so I like it. I really love this progress bar that it made. That's great. Cool. All right, everything looks good. Okay, where were we? What's next? I mean, I can check the plan, but we're vibe coding, so we calculated that. That looks good. And we modified get envelopes query, right? And we updated the budget page. Looks awesome. So the first steps in phase 3.1 is to define the collaboration model in Schema Prisma. All right, let's see. Before we move to phase 3, when we start doing the collaboration and stuff, maybe it'd be cool to just create the docs in the AI folder, so that we have it and we can maybe reference it later. I don't know if it's necessary, but can't hurt to do it. So before we move on to this, let's create the phase 1 and 2 docs for LLMs and human reference in AI. Whoops. AI in a new docs directory. Okay. So first it's creating, it says, yeah, this is a good idea. Good idea to document what we've built. And so just gives an overview of the stuff. That we created a budget model, that we've got these actions, how the actions are defined simply. And it's all one, like all there in one document, so it doesn't have to look through multiple pages, which is nice. So it has a good overview of what's going on. Like, for example, that the on after sign up hook is creating the budget for them automatically when they create a new user. And this is necessary for the collaborative feature. So cool. We've got docs and it looks nice and we can pass those. They're real simple overviews of what we've built so far. And with that, let's move on to 3.1. Yes. Move on to, it asked me, do you want to start modifying step 3.1? So let's go back to our plan. Cool. So this is going, our goal here is to enable users to invite others to view and or edit their budget. So this is great for collaborating with someone on a similar budget. And this is something that when I polled people online and friends and coworkers what kind of app they want, and a budgeting app was a common response. So let's run Wasp db migrate dev to add the budget collaborator model changes. Okay, so we're going to call it, how can I was able to write in it before. Let's say pop out. Okay, so it's there. What is it? I'll just say add budget collaborator model. Oh, okay. Cool. All right. The background. Next step will be to implement 3.2, which is Wasp actions for inviting, removing, and other remove collaborator, update collaborator, things like that. So we got 3.1 done. It looks like we're going to do 3.2 in steps. So I'll say, okay, implement the invite collaborator operation first. Now, this is where it could get tricky, could get hard, because this is also linked to how Auth works. Like if we have an invite token and stuff like that, we need the sign up page to accept the invite token. And I'm not sure that I just planned it here. So let's see. We're just going to run with it. Just going to check the schema.prisma to see if we didn't accept the file. Or did we? Accept file. Okay. Invite collaborator action is defined. Let's look. Where would it do that? In collaboration. Nice. Cool. Looks good. Can't invite yourself. Got to validate the budget exists and the inviter is the owner. Like it. Validate that the invitee user exists. Check if the entity is already a collaborator. So what it's doing is you have to be signed up first to get invited. That's a more simple approach. I mean, we could always make it so that you can invite someone by email and then they can sign up and automatically be set up. But maybe we can do that later, right? The whole idea with this vertical slice implementation is that we do things, simple things first across the entire stack and move to more complex things. So invite collaborator action is defined. It handles authentication, preventing self-invites, validating the budget exists and the inviter owns it, validating the invitee user exists. Cool. Awesome. So let's do the remove collaborator action next. So if you're the owner of the budget and you want to remove someone, let's say your roommate used to be collaborating on the budget with you and they move out, then you can remove them. Okay, so it says it's good. Let's see. Good. Recompilation on file succeeded. What did we updated the operations file so that we can invite and remove collaborator. Awesome. I do not think we've got the UI going yet, so that will probably be, add UI elements will be 3.4, so we won't even look at that. We'll just keep accepting our way, vibing our way through stuff. So next is update collaborator role. Go for it. So I guess as the owner, what you'll be able to do is the collaborator on your budget, you can give them maybe an owner role or something else, or you can downgrade them to just a viewer or something like that. Update the role of the budget creator. What is the collaborator role? Enums collaborator role. It can be owner, editor, or viewer, exactly. Cool. All right. Ready to proceed for modifying operations for permissions checks? Yes, proceed. Go back to our plan. So modifying operations for permissions means we're updating all the relevant operations, queries, and actions. So things like get envelopes, create envelope, create transaction. We'll check context users' permissions via budget collaborator for the target budget and ensure that users can only affect budget envelopes they have access to. Pretty cool. That has to go across quite a few actions there. So, or operations, I should say, because queries and actions. And you can see it's adding budget to budget collaborator to each of the entities on the main.wasp file. Get transactions. So it's doing the queries first, and now it looks like it's going for the actions. No, get envelopes and get transactions. So it's going for the queries first. Now it's starting with the budget operations like create envelope, update envelope. We'll need a helper function to check the user's permission level for a given budget. It's pretty amazing that it's doing all this. I mean, none of this is extremely complex stuff, but it's quite detailed, and there's a lot of features going on here. And that it's able to get all this is and do it for me is like, yeah, pretty amazing. If I were raw dogging this, I'd have a lot harder time right now. Would take a lot longer, that's for sure. Okay, so the final step is to build the UI on the budget or dedicated settings page. Should we do it on the budget or a dedicated settings page? Let's ask it. But sounds good. Before we move on, what do you think is the best approach here for managing the budget and I'll just say, what is for the best approach here for managing collaborators? The budget page or a dedicated settings page? Think about about the possible solutions and provide rationale for the one you think is best. And that helps us kind of understand like why it's choosing that way. I like asking it always to do that. I could probably pack that into a rules for AI prompt, like the global one. Oh shit, resend that. And then I wouldn't have to ask it every time, but I don't need it every time, so I'm not sure. Or maybe create a rule that I could auto. That's probably a good idea. Let's try that while it's thinking. So let's say, oops, here, 7 possible solutions thinking. And I'll say, think about a few possible scenarios or solutions to this problem. Present the one you think is best suited to solve this issue and provide rationale for why you think it's the best one. Did I name that correctly? It should be .mdc, right? And then I say manual, and I can mention it every time, so I don't have to keep typing it. Okay, so back to the question. It says, I recommend we proceed by adding the collaboration management UI elements to the budget page using modals and potentially collapsible sections to keep the layout clean. I like that idea. Let's do it. Use the components we've got already in components. UI components. All right. So, cool. So later I can say possible solutions thinking. I can, with the rule type being manual, I can just say at. Let's see, it's called 7 possible. So yeah, I can just at that rule and add it. And then I don't always have to type the same thing there. But now we're back on the budget page, and we're adding the collaboration UI. So we're actually probably in collaboration page, or users. So we're adding a find user by email. Hey, what is this? No. Auth utils, that's not right. Okay, so here it said get email under Wasp Auth. That seems to be correct, but it's asking extension. So it's saying we don't store the email on the user right now. Although I believe we do, right? You can only go in with username. Where is it? User. Hello, user. Where are you? Ah, that's true. We don't. Because Wasp takes care of the auth in the background. So let's see. Let's just let it go ahead. It's dealing with errors. Okay. So it looks like that'll definitely be an error that it didn't solve. So we'll just say fix in chat. The important note, as noted in the code comments, reliably getting the email for any arbitrary collaborator within a standard Wasp operation is tricky because the standard user entity doesn't store email. The current implementation uses a dummy email for display purposes. A production-ready solution might require storing email directly on the user model as discussed in the authentication MVC's recommendations, or creating a custom API route, or displaying user IDs or fetching. So maybe we should just go ahead and store email directly on the user model, which means we'll have to, log in new users and stuff. So it seems to have stalled here as well. So I think I might stop it. And let's stop it. Let's restore it to here. What does it say? Yeah, I don't know if it made any changes, but I'm going to say, let's go ahead and store the email directly on the user model as discussed in rule. We can add that rule, I know that. Rule 4, let's see. Rule, cursor rules, hey. Cursor rules number 4. To do this, we'll probably require that we reset the database, but I'm okay with that. And this will probably fix the issue that we're having there with finding the user email. So what this is going to do, hopefully, is when the user signs up, because Wasp takes care of the auth stuff for you in the background, it has like an auth user, but we can just store the email. There it goes, yeah. We're going to create like a simple config function that will store the email on the user directly so that we can access it easier than having to constantly, go deeper into the Wasp auth stuff to get the email. It still is wanting to use the get email thing. So I don't like this, what it's doing, so I'm going to reject all. And I'm going to stop that. I'm going to restore it to here. Yeah, let's reject that. Editing 15 files. Operations, find user, email, reject. It's still there, find user by email. I'm pretty sure, let's go check out the Wasp docs ourselves, that auth for getting the user, accessing user data. It's on identities, so user identities. Auth identity. So that's the auth identity in the background that Wasp makes. Getting auth data from the user object. Let's just maybe give the whole thing to it here and say, let's go ahead. we've got the, what is it called? Find user. Find user by email operation. But let's just access the auth identity, right? Isn't that what it's called? Auth identity entity? Signed up with email. Okay. So there it is. Let's see. The auth identity properties as described in this example. Let's just copy that. Oops. Copy this. And then maybe you can figure it out and see how it goes. Okay. So I'm just pointing it, like we see here, we've got, it's trying to do crazy stuff. Because I know basically how it should work, I can kind of stop it and tell it, here, let's look at the docs, pass the URL, pass the example that we're talking about, and let's see if we can figure it out. So it's going to modify get collaborators to return only the user ID, and an update budget page to reflect that. And then it's saying we can now proceed to implement the invite collaborator modal using the find user by email query. But it doesn't look like it updated the find user by email query. And so let's say, okay, first update the find user by email query. Okay, what's going on here? Good point regarding so it's saying to get the email associated with an arbitrary user, we needed this find user by email query. So I can't find revised recommendation. Let's simplify get budget collaborators for now. Instead of trying to fetch and return emails, we'll modify it to return the ID. And we'll update the budget to display the user ID for each collaborator instead of an email address. This is secure and avoids the complexities of fetching sensitive auth identity data for other users. But I thought you can get the thing. So when you find include user, okay. Why can't we do that then? I think this is what we need here. So this looks like a good one. I'm going to say, okay, but I've seen in the Wasp docs that you can access the auth identities information by selecting it in a Prisma query, like this. Can we not use this method to get the email and display it email? Let's just say that. And if we can, then we'll tell it to update the other stuff. Clearly shows that Wasp sets up the underlying Prisma relations in a way that allows you to traverse them using nested include or select statements. So yes, we can use this method to fetch the, here's how it could work. Modify get budget collaborators and include the select provider name email. Result for each collaborator. The con is the query is nested, but I don't care. Should we modify to use this? Yes, and yes, we should. Also, should we update find user by email? Is this being used anymore? If it could be used, should we use it? If so, please update accordingly. So it's thought for 4 seconds. Big thinker. Let's implement fetching, blah, 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 blah. And let's update. Yes, the find. Okay, so it will update get budget collaborators and update find user by email. It's still valuable. Now fetch email find user is needed for the invite process where you type an email address. Previous implementation had a linter error. Okay, so it's updating the find user by email. Nice. So budget has been updated to display the collaborator's email address fetched via the nested include. It falls back to showing the user ID if the email is somehow null. Let's implement the invite collaborator modal using the find user by email query. Awesome. All right, so a little hiccup there. Takes reading through the docs a little bit, but I think we'll get it. Okay, it says phase 3 is complete. Let's accept all, and let's see if it is, if it works. I don't think it is. We're getting an error. React router cannot read properties of undefined reading viewer at budget page. Send that in. I get the following client side error. So that's probably an enum error, right? It's the enums not being yeah, so it was trying to import server-side Prisma client on the front end. So we could probably put those types in a more central place and make them compatible with but that's something we can do later to make it a little bit cleaner so we don't have types and enums all over the place. Let's see, we have recompilation. Let's refresh. Okay, cool. So now we have invite collaborators here. Took a little while, but we need to search. So it allows us to search for the user. So let's see, I think it was vinny@email.com. User found. See, I don't like that it sends the user ID back. So let's tell it not to do that. But you can assign role and all this stuff, viewer. So we could say invite user. Let me tell it to, I don't want the find user by email and, what's it called? And invite collaborator functionality to return and display the user's user ID for security purposes. Can you remove that? While you're at it, add a section to the plan that includes an extensive review of the code for security vulnerabilities. And that's something I like to do is, constantly update the plan when I run into something like that where I didn't consider it before, but it's something that we should do later and, have it add to the plan. Cool. So says still needs ID internally to confirm existence, but we don't need to send that back to the user, right? Return only the email if user was found. So I like that. Now it's going to update the budget page and adjust the found user type. It's either going to find the user or not. And since we're only using the email method to log in, if there's not an email in the database, then they won't be there. They don't exist, right? So this is having trouble applying changes on the budget page. Why is that? I don't see that. I think it's okay now. Okay, edit should now be correct. Now let's add section to the plan for security review and refinement. Nice. I've made the changes. Okay. Let's go ahead and accept. And let's see if this bad boy works. To test the invite collaboration stuff, I'm going to sign up a user. Oh, found an error. User's error. Where is it? Oh, an extra thingy. Curly brace. I'm going to sign up a user. Create. This is interesting. I wonder if the user already has a budget and you invite them to collaborate on yours, what happens? What does the plan say? It says we've completed all of phase 3. So let's just try it out. I am logged in with I think it's dude at email. No, that one doesn't work. It's this one. Let's try a new email. Let's go sign up. And let's just call it tester@email.com. Password 123. Let's go to get the verification link. Okay. Let's go to login. Tester@email.com. Okay, so we've got that user. They probably have no budget, no transaction history. And let's log out. Let's log in with dude@email.com. Let's see, this dude has budget and transaction information. I want to remove that collaborator. I want to invite tester@email.com. Search. User found. Let's make them an editor. Invite user. All right, so if we log out and log back in, I'll be impressed if that works. I have a feeling that's not going to work. Let's go to budget. I have too many password pop-ups. Oh shit. It works, and you can edit it. Aha. Updating envelope fails with. Let's see what happens here. Cannot read properties of undefined when check budget permissions at check budget permissions. When a invited collaborator tries to update the envelope of the shared budget, we get this error. And let me try and add that rule. Possible solutions thinking, which, just to remind you, says, think about a few possible solutions to this problem, provide the one you think is best suited to solve this issue, and provide a rationale why you think it's the best one. And I think there's fundamentally a problem with the collaboration logic. So let's see. So it says the budget collaborator is undefined. So for an operation like update envelopes have access to the thing, they must be explicitly listed in the entities definition. Grant entity access, most likely. Oh, so it could be much simpler than that. Okay. Let's see if that fixes it. Where is this in? Budget operations. Budget operations. Should be update, right? Update envelope. Okay. Maybe that was simpler than we thought. Let's try it again. Wow. Okay, I'm quite impressed that that works so simply. And that would have taken me a lot longer to figure out on my own. Cool, so just to check, we can log out and we try with Dude again, who was the original owner of the budget. And yeah, there it is. It's updated correctly, so tester. So what I want to try now is sign up. Let's just try asdf@email.com. Close. asdf@email.com. Okay. Okay, now it works. Okay, so we got 200. This is the AFD user. Let me go back to dude@email.com. And let's go to budget. And we've got tester is there. What about asdf@email.com? User found. This one can be an editor as well. Invite user. And then let's log out. Let's log in with asdf@email. Now, what does their budget look like? Okay, cool. So it keeps their old, their original envelopes and adds the new ones. That's pretty cool. That's very reassuring. So yeah, they can choose. They can add on to their own, or add their own envelopes, but they also can collaborate on the shared ones, or they can edit their own envelopes. And that would be something cool that we can share, that maybe we show that these are shared envelopes, right? We see the transactions, and that's something maybe we can add to the plan. So add to plan an task to visually identify shared envelopes, or let's say shared collaborative envelopes on the UI, so that users with shared budgets know which envelopes are being shared by other users. Also show info like whether... that's probably enough. Okay, cool. Where were we? That was quite a little detour there. I think we are done with 3.3. So it's saying to do it now. Why don't we just do it now then? Cool. Okay, accept that and say, let's implement those visual distinctions. And let's add the cursor rule, which is think about different possible scenarios and pick the best one and give rationale for why you think it's the best. So it's going to modify, probably. The UI needs to know for each envelope displayed whether the currently logged in user is the owner of the envelope that it belongs to. Analysis of the current data. The problem, the envelopes data fetched by getEnvelopes does not currently contain who owns the budget. We can't directly compare because envelope budget is included. Possible. Modify client side. So what does it say? It says option 1, modify getEnvelopes is the most robust way. So there it goes. It's going to modify getEnvelopes to include the budget user ID. Then it will compare to see who is the user IDs to see who is the owner. That makes sense. Cool. Let's accept all and go check it out. Cool. There you go. That's really nice. So now we see that it's a shared one because they aren't the owner. They're the owner of this one, ASDF, so they see that one. And just to make sure that we don't have some crazy stuff going on, if I log in with Dude, who is the owner of those initial 2 envelopes, then I shouldn't see anything, and I shouldn't see the ASDF one. Awesome. And we see the tester there. Cool. I mean, that looks pretty good. Seems to work pretty well. Let me just log out and let's try to create a new user to make sure nothing crazy is going on. And we'll call this new user hello@email.com. Sign up. Verify the link. Go to login. hello@email.com. Okay, no envelopes created, nothing. Awesome. Maybe we should rename that to hello. Cool. Transactions, no transactions yet. Hey, I was able to add a transaction before. Now I don't see the add transaction button. So let's go ahead and fix that. Before we move on, why don't I see add transaction functionality in the transaction page, right? I've heard about before where people say that it'll just kind of delete stuff and change stuff without you asking, and that's one of the downsides of vibing. I mean, the plus side is that we have a pretty nice looking functional app pretty quickly. I mean, what is it taking? A couple hours. So with a few more hours, you can do quite a lot. Handle add transaction. What did it do? Modal button exists. I don't see it. Am I crazy? Where's the add transaction button? You're full of crap. Let me go to the transactions page. Add transaction. Plus circle, transaction modal. Okay. But where's the, okay, there's an add transaction. There is an add transaction button within the transaction modal, but not on the main page /form. No wonder. I swear we had that before. The modal, which has its own submit button at the bottom, there should also be an add transaction itself. This is the button that's intended to open the modal. So it says, could you please double check the top right area of the transactions page next to the title? The add transaction button with the icon should be visible there. Clicking that button should open the modal. What? This is the button rendered on the main page. I don't see it. Where am I? What? Oh, shit. There it is. Why is it obscured? Uh-huh. It is there, but it's obscured by the header navbar. Is there a padding or margin styling issue? Do we have something like that in the budget? Oh yeah, we have the same thing for the budget. It's blocked the look at that. Yeah, my budget envelopes. Haha, funny. I'll make sure we fix that. The header fixed component likely uses fixed or sticky. Let's see, budget, we're on transactions page, right? It's saying something about a fixed property. If I get rid of it, that's all it is. Okay, so cool, it set me in the right direction. Surprised what's fixed. That's all it takes to fix it. Cool. Then we get a little dingy, dingy, dingy. I like the way the styling on the tasks looks nicer, but we can fix that later. Things kind of gotta. Cool. Okay. Anyway, now we have the add transaction. We can add transaction. It's an expense. It was in hello, and we see it in our budget. Spent. Oh, we didn't add any budget to. Cool. Okay. Great. Where were we? Cool, so we've got the visual indicators for shared envelopes within a budget. And next, the phase 4 is CSV import and mapping to envelopes. So the goal is to allow users to upload transaction data via CSV file and map imported transactions to the correct envelope. Cool, before we do that, let's have it create the doc. So let's say before we move on, let's create a doc for phase 3 in docs in AI Docster. Okay, at this point this is probably the point where I would start a new chat. Because now we have the context of the docs and stuff like that. So we don't need all this chat context to be in there. And it's kind of getting slow. So I would assume that this is a good point to move on to see it's saying there, start new chats for better results. So it's even letting us know that that's what we should do. And now it's saying we're ready to move on. Where did it do it? Collaboration, cool. Summarizing chat context. So I'll let it finish doing that before I accept, even though it looks like everything's good to go. And it's taking a long time. I'm getting impatient here. Cool. Yeah, it's planning next moves, blah, 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 blah. Okay. We're ready to start phase 4. Saving action. Okay, so it wants to do that. I want to slow down because I want to move to a new chat. So let's go first to the plan. Does it, in the plan, it says it wants to use pop-up parse, I guess. Yeah, so I'm going to stop it here. I'm going to accept all changes. And I'm going to stop it. So we've accepted the collaboration, right? Cool. And I'm going to do a new chat. And get rid of that. Keep the plan in there. Okay, so they seem to be done with 3.4. We did 3.5. Forgot to mark these off. All right, cool. I am going to do git add all, git commit phase 3, collaborate, git push origin, or what branch are we on? Git push, what was the remote? Git push origin video. All right, cool. Didn't take a little breather here. It's been an hour, almost 2 hours of vibing, and before we move on to phase 4. Okay, so I kind of decided that I'm going to put off phase 4, not do it for the video because it's already gotten pretty long. And what I prefer to do is kind of clean up this dashboard and actually get it to show us some stats here. So let me log in with my other user that has more going on. And right, because they have, yeah, like this stuff and collaborators and stuff. So we want some of these stats to be shown on the dashboard here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, instead of moving on to plan phase 4, let's add some useful graphs to the dashboard page of the app. Think about some possible graphs or visuals to show here based on our envelope and our envelopes, transactions, and collaborations functionality. Give me a few suggestions of what you think will be the best things to display here after thinking about your answer. Whew. Okay. So after it gives me some possible suggestions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to use these components here and the charts that it's got in there as a guide, and base it off that. So it's saying expense, income versus expense for the current period. A simple bar chart with a summary, a pair of summary cards comparing total income, total expenses for the current month. Spending breakdown by envelope and envelope status progress. Let's do the income versus expense overview. Because we have the envelope status and progress on the budgets page, let's do income expense overview and spending breakdown by envelope. Let's do the first two. Use the, let's see what we got in there. We've got on the dashboard page, we have some components with just an overview, and that's a bar chart using recharts. Use the overview component as a guide to help develop. Use the overview component as a guide. Yeah, just that should be enough. Because it already set up here, you know, we have to choose whether we do recharts, chart.js, blah, blah, blah. And because the overview is already using recharts, then that should help. So let's see what it does. I saw before it said it's going to create some new operations. So it's going to make a get accessible budgets query. Cool. And it's going to define dashboard aggregation queries, which is what those are, like dashboard totals, and get spending by envelope. I like it. And then it's going to create some front end components, which are bar charts and a pie chart. And should be pretty good. Once we have that stuff in order, so you update the dashboard page, we'll go ahead and we'll try and just deploy this app. For deployment, we'll probably have to add a real email sender. We can't use the dummy email sender that we've been using in development, so it might take a little while, but should be worth it. Okay. No, I'm not sure if it applied these changes or not. That's just odd. It says the setup and I'm just going to say go ahead and implement that. Implement those changes. Funny that it didn't do it there, which I find surprising. I mean, it created all the things, and I don't feel like going through and, manually clicking apply to all of them, so let's have it work itself. It's deleting the old overview, so it made a envelope spending breakdown and an income expense overview. Oh, I need to accept the delete file thingy. Cool. I see some import errors. We have recharts installed, so we don't need to do that. These I know are false, and I figured that out right away. We do have an error here, which is budget, and I think it went ahead and deleted. Which file is that? That is update collaborator role. So I'm not sure why it changed that, but I'm going to put that back. I don't think revert this change. So I think that was what was causing the issue there. And let's see. SDK failed, build failed. Okay, so we're getting a lot of errors now. Where are we getting them from? From the index. Okay. One of them is this, one's that. We can just tab through those. Let's go down here. Budget IDs. Type string is not assignable to type number. Okay, so that means this one. Those, we tab through those. Type string is not assignable to type number. So this should be string, right? So I guess the get spending by envelope expects a number array. So let's ask it what the best way to deal with this is. Fix in chat. I know we can cast strings as numbers. Well, let's see. Seems budget ID field is likely a string, perhaps a UID. We could look that up. Is budget ID? Where are budgets? Yes, there's a UUID. So it's going to change that to string and that to string. Okay. So it just was expecting to take a number, but because budget ID was a UUID, which is a long string of characters and numbers, that should fix the issue now. Let's see what happens when it builds and recompiles. Some more errors. Okay, not null. And it says null is not assignable to type string. Let's fix in chat. I've actually never seen this before, this not null definition here in a Prisma group by some where envelope ID. Okay, but it doesn't solve this issue. Envelope ID is string, so undefined. Okay. Changes been applied. What do we got? Request error loading budget info. Request failed with 404. HTTP Wasp error 404 object. Okay, and failure key. So we get this error on the client. After those changes, I unfortunately get this error on the client. Probably not finding a budget ID or something like that. So let's see how it deals with this. Is the function path get accessible details? It's asking me questions. So get accessible budgets here is collaboration operations. Get accessible budgets, yeah. Budgets owned by a user or budgets where the user is a collaborator. Okay. Could you please confirm you have restarted the server and check the server logs for any errors when 404 happens? Restart like they ask. Interesting. Okay, so we've got income, no income versus expense. So let's go check, and if we add an income, let's say some income, we'll add 1,000. Say income for that, whatever. Nice. So we added $1,000. So we've got income versus expense for the current month. Pretty good. And we've got money spent, funny money. Do we not have any envelopes? Yes, so no money was spent on rent. So if I go to transactions and I add a transaction and I say rent That was 600 rent at transaction. So my budget, I see I spent all my money on rent. I went over on my funding money, and my dashboard should reflect that. So majority of my spending is on rent, the rest is on funding money, and I've got this income versus expense for the current month. They're pretty close. Right, so maybe I could do something with the rest of this where, for example, we use some of these cards here. I kind of like these indicators there. But I think, you know what, this is pretty good for now. This kind of shows that we're able to do it. Let's just go ahead and repurpose those cards and get rid of recent sales. So nice, it works now. But on dashboard page, I want to repurpose some of those cards with general info, such as total income, total spent, and total remaining, or something like that. Remove recent sales too. So we'll remove the recent sales, and I will fix up some of these, right? Okay, so a lot of the, we have functions already, we have operations already that get that data for us, so it's easy to pass to those cards there. I mean, we could go deeper and actually make it a little nicer, but I mean, I think that's pretty cool. That looks pretty nice, what it just did there. Made it very simple for us. Then, of course, you can jump to your budget, where you see your collaborators, and you see your transactions. I like it. Quick view of what you have remaining this month, and yeah, really nice. Vibe coded. I'm going to leave the other stuff in place for now. I mean, none of this is perfect. We can keep using this process to refine everything. I think that's good enough for the purposes of this video. So I'm going to make a new chat, and I'm going to say, I'd like to deploy this app now using, let's do the docs, Wasps, CLI deployment methods. Can you lay out a deployment plan in the AI folder? Because, yeah, AI is making it. And title it deployment plan.md, where we go through, where we outline all the deployment steps necessary. So Wasp has some cool deployment features, like you can deploy using a single command with the Wasp CLI. And right now, you can do that with fly.io. So we'll probably have to go set up a Fly account and stuff like that. Hopefully the plan will tell us that. So it's just going through the docs, and it's going to tell us what to do. So where did it make the deployment? Here's the deployment plan. Let's check it out. Accept file. So you need an account with Fly.io. It requires a credit card. I know that they don't charge you if you're under $5. So you install the Fly CTL CLI. I already have done that. This gives you the link to how you can do it. You log in with it, and then we need to follow these steps. So Wasp CLI simplifies deployment to a single command. So we need to choose app region, run deployment command, blah, 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 blah. So we will do that. But I know before we can deploy, we need to move off the dummy email provider and move to a real one. So let's go ahead and do that now. So here we're using dummy email provider in production, and that was just logging like all the emails to the console. But we want to use a real one like SendGrid or something. Okay, so in the Wasp docs for the email sender, that we've been using the dummy email sender, which is just a placeholder in development that logs all the emails that would be sent by a real email sender to the console. So I just quickly went ahead off camera and I got the SendGrid. I logged into my SendGrid account and got the API keys and put them into .env.server under the SendGrid API key environment variable. And yeah, you can do the same. And yeah, this is .env.server.example. You'll want a .env.server file. Put your SendGrid API key in and change the email sender to provider SendGrid, default from, and be your email that you use for that SendGrid account. So you'll see the same thing in here from field. So let's try it out. I've got gonna restart the import main. What's going on? Import main from. I'm missing something here. Oh, I got two. No, that should be right. Where it was going? Import main, root component, client server, unexpected token, root component. Oh, okay. I don't know what was going on there. Maybe missing a curly bracket or something. Okay, so start the app again. And just to see if this API key is working, I'm going to try and register a new user. So we're logged in with probably dude or whatever. Go to sign up. And we're going to do guy@email.com. Or let me actually use my real email address. Budget created for new user. Okay, let me go to my email address off camera. Cool, and there's my real email address. And it says, yeah, you've got an email. So I'm going to verify it. Again, off camera here. Go to my email address. Da-da-dee-da. And it gave me a link that I'm going to click. Verify email. Cool. So I went to my Gmail account, clicked on it, and it verified. So now I should be able to log in with that real actual email address. So we know that it is working. Cool. And here, of course, we have no spending data for the moment because we have no budget and stuff like that. But cool, yeah, that worked. So that was a prerequisite to be able to actually deploy the app because, oh, and there's my API key. I'm going to have to get rid of that because yeah, with the dummy email provider, you can't deploy to production. So we had this deployment plan that we made. And I'm going to go back to the docs and I'll just say, how can I check if I'm logged in with the Fly CTL? It says here you have to install the Fly CTL and log in. So let's just run that command. Cool, so it shows I'm logged in. I've already done that before. And it's Fly auth who am I. So now I'll just ask it, what's the next, prepare the next command for me according to the deployment plan. So I'm just going to have it, create the unique name, blah, 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 the region. So it's saying, what base name would you like to use for your application? I like this one. Yeah, envelope budgeting app. Yes, I like the name. And let's go with Miami. So you need a name and a region to deploy the app in. So it's running a command. It's going to check fly. So it's got my personal and it's got shared. Which organization would you like? I'll say personal. Okay, so it's prepared the command, Wasp deploy, fly, launch the name of the app in Miami and to the personal org. If you don't have different organizations, you don't need that tag, but that's the great thing about having it put out this plan and then having it make the commands for you. So let's run it. Now, of course, you would have to, like it says here, you'll have to, go to fly.io and create an account if you don't already have one. But as you can see here, it's building the app. This might take a while. Press any key to continue. Continue. Okay, so we popped out the terminal, and then it's running here. Okay, it says my app was deployed, finally. So let's open up the link and see what we get. And how's it going? See a loading spinner here. Log in. Probably to sign up, I know we need to add the environment variable. So, no match signs up. Sign up. If we go to thingy. So let's go ahead. We see the client there. It's doing a loading spinner, probably because it's not able to find the SendGrid API key. So let's ask the agent, according to the Wasp docs, how do I add an environment variable via the CLI? So yeah, I'm going to go access that environment variable on camera, but of course I'm going to delete this later, so you goons don't have access to it. Okay, so here we go. Let's just say, can I change that? No. Let's put that, well, it's there, so let's just copy that. Let's put it here. And it's going to be, oh, shit. So paste it again and get the SendGrid API key, paste that in there. Okay. Let's go back to our app. Where was the URL again? Here. Let's see what our issue is. Okay, cool. That I think it's getting the API key now. So we'll go to sign up. And put in my real email address again. Okay, and then I sent an email. I'm going to go off camera and check my email here. And I've got a email. Okay, so email has been verified, as you can see here. So I'm going to go to login. I'm going to put in my email. Oh. And we are logged in, baby. All right, so let's create a budget. Fun. household stuff. Awesome. We have a deployed, semi-finished collaborative budgeting app. Let's see if we can add some transactions. Nice. I'll just say coffee. And I like coffee, so I'll spend 100 on that. Cool. All right, and everything seems to be working pretty well, I would say. Save changes. Cool. And go to our dashboard, and we see our income, expenses. Things are looking good. Total income remaining this month. Oh, yes, because I didn't put any income in. So it took a while. I mean, it's not like everything is done for you. You kind of need to know what you're doing, but you can definitely vibe code your way and get a lot done a lot faster and than you could in the past. Create some complex apps. And yeah, this workflow, I think, definitely is one I will be sticking to. I even noticed that adding like stuff like this, or maybe adding like this possible solutions thinking idea, but having these like set of cursor rules that you can either automatically or manually inject into the context is really helpful. Having a detailed PRD and plan that you can go through is super helpful. Starting on top of a really nice component library is very helpful. Using a full stack framework with batteries included gets you, a lot further than usually would. So that's it in a nutshell. I know this is long, but I hope it provided some use somewhere within this video. You found something useful, or you've learned something. Let me know in the comments anything that I might have missed, stuff that you think improves this workflow, or things I'm overlooking. These tools keep improving, keep getting better, so this video might even be obsolete in a few months, who knows. But anyway, that's it for now. Signing off. Enjoy the vibe coding.